Hey, what is up YouTube, and welcome back to episode 9 of the Let's Play Satisfactory. We begin today's episode over here by the second power generator factory because we are once again running out of power in the base. And if you have a look here, we are consuming 1400 and something, so about 1500 megawatts of power. And we currently have 2 of those farm setups, and one of those farm can produce about 600 megawatts. So technically we have 1200 megawatts of power that is being produced or generated automatically, and the remaining power I had to set up even more biomass generators at the base to supply the entire base. So what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to duplicate this entire setup over here probably, so that we can keep up with the power demand for the base. And before we begin, guys, there was something that I wanted to mention, and that is that we have 8 coal generators in a power factory, and every coal generator consumes 15 coal a minute. So that's 15 times 8, that's 120, and that's the equivalent of 1 Mark II belts full. So these are Mark III belts, and when I came here at first I scanned for coal, and I was a bit confused because the marker here for the coal is indicated this spot right here in the middle, but there's obviously no coal here. And it turns out that there's actually quite a few coal nodes in this area. We have those 2, and we have another one back there, and there's even one underneath this big rock. And so I had placed 2 Mark I miners over here, which can mine 60 coal a minute each, so that's 120. But now I've added another miner back there and one here, and those are Mark II miners, and these guys can mine 120 coal per minute. So technically with just those 2 miners I would have enough to supply 2 of those factories, but I've left this one here just for extra coal, because I've noticed that sometimes even though you're supplying the same amount that's being consumed, the last coal generator in line is not receiving the coal, because everything goes into the first one until it's full, and it has an inventory size of 100 coal. So all the coal is going into the first generator, and there's none being going into the last one. So whilst I was waiting for the coal generators to fill up with coal, I decided to go exploring a little bit, and I noticed that there was a cave entrance behind the waterfall. And so I started exploring, and it turns out that there was a power slug in this cave. And yeah, the cave looked really cool. I'm always amazed by how good the game is at rewarding the player for just exploring the world. It's really cool. And there you go guys, so now that the power situation is stable, it's time to head back to base and start working towards unlocking the next milestone in the hub. Alright guys, so we are back at the base here in the new extension where we are processing the oil, and I've added another refinery here at the end of the refinery array, and this refinery here is set up to produce some fuel. Now when we produce fuel out of the crude oil, we also get a byproduct, and that is this polymer resin. And I don't know if you guys remember, we did find a hard drive, and the recipe we got from the hard drive was here to allow us to make fabric out of this polymer resin and water. And that's pretty useful, because if you have a look here at the fabric, the standard recipe for fabric is using biomass and mushrooms or mycelia, and those two, as far as I know, those two components you have to gather them by hand, which means that the only way you have to produce fabric by default is to craft it by hand. But with this alternative recipe, we can now automate the process of making this fabric here with the resin and the water. And so we are also producing fuel with the polymer resin, and we can use fuel by pumping it into this machine here. This is a packager, and we can pump fuel into it with empty canister, and that gives us 2 package fuel. And the package fuel is used for the next unlock, which will give us access to jetpacks, which is pretty cool. I'm simply bringing in the plastic over this line into this constructor, and the plastic is then converted into these empty canisters, which are then being fed immediately here into the packager. Alright, and now that we are making this package fuel as well as the fabric, we can go back to the hub and unlock 2 additional milestones. Okay, now let's go over here, and the first milestone that we can unlock will give us access to gas mask. And reading the tooltip, this says allows you to breathe normally in poison gas, consumes gas filter from your inventory when you are in a poison gas. And it also will increase our inventory. So let's go ahead and unlock this.
Milestone reached. Gas masks and filter parts will ensure increased odds of survival in gas-based hazardous environments. Fixit Incorporated would like to extend the friendly advice to not forget to change filters regularly.
Okay, cool guys, so we've made a gas masks, and let's see how this works. So I should be able to go into this poison cloud now. But the filters are being consumed at a very fast rate. But okay, it's still cool to have, so I'll keep the gas mask on me all the time, so that when we go out exploring, we can use it then to enter the poison caves. Cool, so we have now unlocked all the tier 5 milestones, and we can now move on to tier 6 with the jetpack upgrade. So let's go ahead and unlock this.
R&D inflated your pocket dimension and has provided a jetpack, which operates on oil-based fuel for increased navigational capabilities as well as odds of survival.
We need circuit board for this. Alright. Okay, so let's build a jetpack. Alright, there we go. So let's put this here on our inventory. Cool! This will be very useful for exploring the map. Cool. Alright. Okay guys, so I've just realized that now that we have the jetpack, we don't actually need parachutes. Oh well. Alright guys, if you can remember, we were also creating this heavy oil residue as a byproduct of making the plastic and the rubber, and then we were transforming this heavy oil residue into petroleum coke, which we were then feeding directly into an awesome sink in order to get coupons. And it turns out that we have actually 32 coupons right now. So let's go ahead and go into the awesome shop and let's have a look at some stuff that we can unlock. So first of all, I'd like to get some factory ladders. So let's buy this. Some walkways would be nice too. Foundations, yeah, let's go ahead and unlock this as well. Railings, yeah, sure. In the wall section, windowed walls, yeah, that seems pretty cool. Foundations, I think there was also glass foundations. Oh, we are 23, okay, let's keep going. Ooh, wall mounts, let's go ahead and buy this. Pipeline, wall attachment, oh, let's get those. That's 29. We can have 3 more. So let's see here. Let's buy these hypertube wall attachments too. That's quite a big buy. Let's go ahead and buy all. Nice. That's a lot of new parts that will be useful in building the base. Alright. Okay guys, so after this I decided to set up a manufacturer so we could start producing the computers which are required for the next upgrade. And whilst we were producing the computers, I then decided to go on an exploration trip around the world. And now that we have unlocked the gas masks, I decided to go back to a cave that we explored earlier in the series and venture further into the cave. And after passing the gas barrier, I came across new mushrooms and I tried to chop them down with the chainsaw and you get just mycelia out of them, so nothing new here. But then a bit further in the cave I found a new type of ore. This one is called Caterium ore, and mining it by hand I got a notification from Ada that we had unlocked a new tree in the MAM, so a new research tree. And so I grabbed all the Caterium ore there was and I ventured even further into the mine, and the only new thing I came across was a big spider boss, which I fought off, and he was guarding a new node that is a work in progress, and so nothing very interesting there. So I left the cave and I went exploring a bit further towards the waterfall area. And I just found a few more slugs, and then when I ventured even closer to the waterfall I spotted the crash land ship that we had seen before, and so I decided to go towards it to see what it would contain. And as I came closer I accidentally stumbled upon a Caterium node, which is pretty funny. So I took note of the location of the node and I continued onwards towards the ship, and when I accessed it, we just needed some modular frames to unlock it, which I was lucky to have on me, so I could just unlock it immediately and get access to the hard drive. And then when I got back to base, I decided to have a closer look at the Caterium research tree inside the MAM, and the first significant unlock was for Caterium ingots, but I needed more ore. And so I decided to set up a hypertube from my base to the node. And back at the node I set up a miner, a Mark II miner, on the node to start mining for the Caterium. And so once I had sufficient ore, I got back to the MAM once again and unlocked the ingots. And now that we could process ingots, I decided to set up some foundries just underneath the oil processing part of the base, so that we could start producing some ingots. And looking at the research tree again, there were a lot of cool new upgrades available. One that seemed especially interesting was the inventory upgrade, so I decided to go for it. And then of course I had to set up a conveyor belt to go from the Caterium ore node to the Foundries. Now that we had a production line for Caterium ingots, I was able to research quick wires in the MAM, which is interesting because if you guys can remember, we had found a ship really close to the base that required some quick wire to unlock. So I set up a small production line for quick wires as well, and that gave me access to a bunch more interesting upgrades in the hub. And so we had now access to unlock new power pole, these blade runners, smart splitters, and a bunch of new cool stuff, which I was really eager to try out. And the first thing that I unlocked was of course the blade runners. And so these blade runners, once you equip them, they allow you to move much faster and also jump much higher, which is pretty cool. And so after all of this, I went back to the crashed ship that I marked with a beacon on my map and unlock it with the quick wire to gain access to the hard drive. With both hard drives now in hand, I went back into the MAM to research them, and from the first hard drive I gained access to not so interesting recipes. And so the options that we had available was an alternative recipe for either cable, there was one for heavy oil residue, and one for crystal. And to be fair, none of the three were particularly interesting to me, but I did pick the one for the crystals. And from the second hard drive we gained access to those three alternative recipes, and here the one for the steel ingots and the heavy flexible frame looked interesting. The canisters I don't really care about, however better steel production would be interesting, and here it would be using the petroleum coke, which at the moment we don't have any use for. So I was hesitating between the steel or the frame, and in the end I picked the alternative recipe for the heavy frames. Okay guys, and then because we are nearing the end of the episode and I was already on a roll, I decided to keep unlocking more and more upgrades, and so I went ahead and unlocked the Mark II power poles, which required just some more quick wire. And these new power poles are going to be more useful than the other ones because they allow up to 7 connections instead of the 4 by default. So that's really nice. And then I also took the opportunity to unlock the next milestone in the hub, which gives us access to trains, which I'll be excited to try out in the next episode. And yeah, there are a lot of things that I don't show you guys. For example, in between this clip and the previous one, I also upgraded a ton of stuff in my base in order to produce more resources. And so yeah, I also took the opportunity then to unlock the power upgrade milestone in the hub that gives us access to new power sources, which again I'll be excited to try out in the next episode. And so this is it for this episode. If you have any tips or comments regarding the video, please let me know in the comment section. And in any case, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next episode. Bye bye.